Oh yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. Today's show is sponsored by Ringmaster, on a mission to launch B2B podcasts that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth. Ringmasterlive.com. Bam. And it's going. The train has left the station, and I'm excited. I don't even know how to describe the guest I'm about to talk to because he is an absolute badass. He's basically off the grid. He's an endurance athlete, but you know what? He's also a marketing and sales leader. He's a partnership builder. It's all about innovative thinking and just like thinking outside the box and the grid even and where you're at and making these win-win relationships. So I can't wait to learn from him. I can't wait to talk to him and really dive into what is wrong and right with marketing today. So with that, who am I talking to? Well, marketing and partnerships at Crowdspring, Jason Byer. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Casey, I'm excited to be here. Love the energy so far. I've been looking forward to this conversation.
Well, that's cool because that's all the energy I got for today. So,
perfect.
You talk to the audience. I'm out of here. All right, I'll catch you later, man.
All right.
Click. No, so this is going to be fun, and I got to pass you this thing. It's heavy, but I know you're cutting down lumber out there in Wyoming. So here you go.
Right. Oh, man, you got the Thor hammer.
You got
nice.
it? You want to grab it? Grab it.
I got it.
Okay. Oh, geez. Wow.
It's on my
side.
For
those not watching the video, he just literally backhand grabbed it like it was a tennis racket. They build them strong out there in Wyoming. So, Jason, take Thor's hammer and smash for me some kind of marketing myth, bogus strategy, misconception, set the record straight once and for all.
Yeah, absolutely. Casey, it's more of a controversial topic that maybe we don't want to admit to ourselves. And that's most marketing is just busy work. Most marketing just makes us feel good, and it's the challenge with this problem is that there's so many things we can do as marketers, right? So we've got paid strategies and direct mail and SEO, and then we've got all the on-site optimizations we can make, changing button colors, which feels good to raise percentages,
Change that button.
And exactly. And the challenge with all of this is that most of it doesn't matter, right? I'm not saying don't do it. Okay. Most marketing fails. And so we've got to, you've heard the term fail quickly. What does that mean? It means run the test and decide, is there something here or not? We won't know. You can't just take somebody's word that, Facebook is dead. Well, maybe not for my industry, maybe not for my audience, right? I've got to run the test. But we've got to be hyper vigilant of the fact that these tests can get away from us and just feel like busy work makes us feel good, right? And so we want to make sure that we understand what the company's core goals are and make sure our marketing strategies align with those core goals. Or else all we're doing is making ourselves feel good. And it doesn't matter how many email subscribers you have, how many social followers. If they're not helping that company's core goal, you're not growing. You're at least not growing the way the company and the leadership has laid out the growth plan. And I think there's two main problems. Can I get into the two kind of reasons for this?
Yeah. Talk about it.
I think the first is insecure marketers. Okay. I think the first is it takes a lot of understanding to look at yourself and to question, is what I'm doing actually effective? Is what I'm doing actually advancing the company's core goals? Because then the realization is, if you come to that answer and say, no, they're actually not, it's just a vanity metric that makes me feel good, or I'm trying to overly sell it to myself. If you come to that realization, you have to come up with a new strategy. You have to say, okay, this is not working. So what am I going to do in place of that? Yeah. And if you're insecure or if you're a lazy, uninnovative marketer, you're not going to question that, because there's an infinite number of metrics we can hide behind to show that we're busy and that we are showing results. That's the first.
Well, dude, real quick, before we get to the second one, I have felt that. I've been like a marketing manager at a software company, and we just did a webinar. We got a bunch of people to apply, and some wanted to talk to sales. And I'm thinking, what did I even just do? We were reporting our vanity metrics, and I'm just part of an organization, and it feels it kind of sucks if you're not the marketer that's not paying. If you're paying attention to it, you're like, man, I have friends in the Peace Corps. What am I doing? I'm like getting virtual people in a virtual webinar, and they're gonna buy widget. What's going on? So I've definitely felt that before.
Well, and I think, kind of what you're alluding to is we don't necessarily need a cool mission. I mean, the mission of
Yeah.
Crowdspring, we're helping businesses create strong brands. And so there is kind of a sexiness to it. But at the end of
Sexy.
the day, I'm not curing malaria. I'm not, saving anybody. It's not inherently fun. I think the fun aspect for marketers are these tests, are these abilities, you kind of flip the script a little bit instead of
Yeah.
looking at, oh man, if I actually reveal that what I just did for the last month is actually not helping the company's goals, I've got to come up with something new to do to keep my job. That's actually the fun part of marketing, right?
Right.
Because instead of just, cold calling people, where you do the same thing over and over again, following the same script, you actually just get to say, you know what, social isn't working for us. Let's try direct mail. Let's
Right.
try, SEO. Let's try some of these other tactics. And it introduces a lot of variety to the position that you don't necessarily get in other positions of the company.
Huh. So,
And the insecurity doesn't really go away. Like it doesn't,
right. I was
it
gonna,
doesn't necessarily get, I don't want, the more senior marketers here thinking, oh, this isn't for me. These are for people with, marketing coordinator in their titles. No,
sure.
you still have to, you still have to innovate. You still have to follow this practice of pushing the boundaries of what's possible. It's too easy just to go to Google and find the first HubSpot article that comes up for how to get leads for your business in 2022. Oh, I made it real specific. I narrowed it down to the year, and it's all these generic tactics.
Way to go.
Yeah, it's like when, like we're going to start a blog because it
Yeah.
was number 3 on HubSpot's list.
I was thinking maybe redesign the website one more time.
Oh yeah, that's a great thing
This
to
time
hide
will
behind.
be
It's
it.
going to take about 8 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. By
Put
the
that
time
on a
it's out,
resume.
we're going to change the brand again.
Here's what I personally do, Casey. I've got a Google Doc.
Okay.
It is titled Crowdspring Ideas, very originating,
Yes.
originative,
Yes.
and it's about 70 pages long. And not all the ideas in there are great. In fact, most of them are not great. Most of them might be the genesis of something if we brainstorm with the team.
I like
But what
that.
this does is it gives me permission to do 2 things. One, stop thinking about the idea, because sometimes you just get these ideas and you just start playing with them and thinking about them and daydreaming about them. This allows me to say, okay, it's here if I need to think about that later, but I can stop thinking about it for now. The second thing is it creates this cycle where innovation becomes a little bit easier. You just start thinking more innovatively. You start looking at somebody else's tactic and you say, maybe there's something here. Let me put it in my ideas. Let me come back. Let me nurture it later.
Right.
But this realization that, I have this myself. It's not like a humble brag or something that most of them are not good. No, most of them objectively are not good in this document. But it gives me permission to just think and to not be the self-critic too early on, but just to start innovating, start thinking about unique ways to solve the challenge.
Love that. And you can, sometimes just getting it on paper, right? Then doesn't have to, we're not thinking about it all the time. Like to do or an idea, just write it down. And then sometimes if you ask yourself questions about it, it can help you filter it out. Do I want to bounce this off people or not? Or should I just keep this on the idea list?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, man. Okay. So we know this happens. We've got insecure marketers, or we're not sure if we're contributing. Most marketing tactics, and we're just doing busy work. How do we bust out of this? We talked about, you got to get strategy, you got to align to the goals. What's the first step?
Well, the first step, and this is, whether or not everybody has a leadership quality within them, right? It doesn't matter how low your job title is in the marketing organization at your company. You can have leadership on your own, right? You can volunteer to say what we're doing, what I'm assigned to do is not working, but here's how I think we can do something different. If you're actually in a leadership position, you want to cultivate this with the team. And it starts with understanding what's the company's core goal. What are we trying to do as an organization? You might not know that depending on your position, but if you're in leadership at that company, you need to make sure everybody on the team knows what is the singular focus. And it's got to be something that can be tracked. It can't be something as nebulous as increase customers. Increase customers by how much, how quickly, what types, what sectors. But when you boil marketing down, when you boil business growth down, we're really just trying to do 3 things. We're trying to increase customers, we're trying to increase retention, and we're trying to increase lifetime value. That's it. I mean, it's not that complicated. And so we have to understand what's that goal, which one is our company focusing on based on where we're at right now, and then how can we help contribute to that with our marketing strategies. And so this was the second, reason I think that we have this problem of busy work, is that leadership needs to understand this. The marketing leadership needs to understand this, and then we need to challenge ourselves and our team when we present the findings from our marketing tests, right? Because if we understand the premise that most marketing is going to fail, most marketing won't work, we're running quick tests, we're trying to understand. When somebody comes to you, or you come to yourself and through this realization and say, okay, I increased social followers by X%, great. How did that help our company's core goal? How did we advance that? And it's not you want to create a culture where that question is not directed at somebody, but it's a conversation with them. Let's decide, did this increase our core goal? If it didn't, can we make some changes? That's where you have a bit of a pivot within the test. Or are you at that point where you say, you know what, beyond an infinite budget and an infinite amount of time, this tactic's not working. It's not necessarily your fault, but let's move on. Let's pick something else, right? And so creating that culture that everybody understands marketing is probably going to fail. We've got to run quick tests. That's not an excuse for lazy marketers. It just means we've got to be more innovative, and we've got to focus on the goal. And when you start having these conversations regularly, it just becomes easier, because now, before a junior marketer or anybody on your team presents their findings, they've already filtered it through how did this help our company grow, right? Because that's what we care about, especially now at the end of the year. We're kind of looking back saying, okay, what happened? Did we reach, kind of the goal we set out, or did we not?
I'm so glad you brought up the culture too, right? Because it's not enough that you've tracked the stats, but if those stats come out and you start making excuses, you don't want to hurt people's feelings, you're taking everything personally, then you start, mushing the results all around, and then you're not really learning from them or making any changes. And it's like taking out that personal side. This is a test. To your point, we expected it to fail, or we figured some of these would,
or at least we were okay with it failing.
We're okay with it, right? Yeah. We knew some would hit, some probably won't hit, because we're going to try a bunch of things. And so we can be open and honest about it. It's not going to hurt anyone's feelings. We can have those conversations. It's not like, Jan was really pushing for this one thing and, oh, your thing failed, you're terrible. It's like, no, but like, what is it that sometimes we hold on to these programs as like our babies instead of our test things?
Well, yeah, and that's why we want the baby that we hold on to be the actual company, right? Yeah. We want to empower everybody at the company to take ownership of the company and to say, look, we're all trying to grow this together, and so it's not necessarily, I'll give you a personal example. I put off doing webinars for years, right? I just figured they were kind of the boring Salesforce style where you're eating a sandwich and listening to somebody click through slides. And I'm like, I don't want to do that, right? Right. And we kept running through different tactics, and we said, you know what? Okay, let's run a test. We won't know until we try this, but let's commit to doing it differently. And so the way I did it differently was joint venture relationships with other companies. So I got companies, like Constant Contact, 1-800-Accountant, Deal, which was valued at $1 billion, and got them to promote the content so that we'd get, thousands of followers or thousands of people engaging, made it very interactive. And it was, in that sense, a success, right? We flipped the script. We did something much more engaging than your typical webinar. We had lots of feedback saying, this is great. I enjoyed it because I like talking about marketing and branding and educating. But the result was it took a lot of time, and we didn't see the immediate conversion that we could see in other tactics. So, this was, quote, my baby, in that, like, I put the program together, was ultimately happy with it, enjoyed doing it. Yeah. But I had to say, you know what? My true baby is the company. Right? And so what I really want to make sure is that, is this helping our core goals? Is it doing it in a way that, again, without infinite time and infinite resources, it can actually advance what we're doing quickly? And the answer was, no, I think we can do something different instead. And so you want people to feel empowered to, want the company to succeed rather than their individual projects.
I nailed it with that one. The company, it's like putting the team before yourself. But being in a place where it's safe to do that and exciting to do that because it's the team and the team's awesome. You're not just like CYA left and right, like a giant enterprise sometimes gets.
Exactly. And well, this is hard because you have to, as a leader, you have to kind of give up some of that credit.
Sure.
I mean, what's the saying is, as leaders, you accept everybody's failures and you give all the credit back, right? And so
Sure.
it's kind of not really an envious position. And in practice, that's what you want to create. You want to create this where everybody realizes that, the company is what we're trying to advance, not our individual projects.
So true. So true. Killer, man. Shifting a little bit, what do you think about events? Because we've talked about a lot of useless activities. Where do you put events in your mind? And then also, are we getting back on site? Did COVID kill our events? Is there anything coming up that you're excited for?
So this can be short because I'll just be honest, it's not a real focus for Crowdspring and nor for my focus as
was it before and not anymore, or just never was?
No, we never really had that. We created more of a self-service platform. We want to make sure that you can come and you can launch projects at 11 o'clock in your underwear, and that you don't have to talk to somebody like me, but we have customer support 7 days a week if you need it to launch, your branding projects. And so, we do, I guess the events that we would do is more webinar based and education focused, where, we're trying to teach, we're trying to explain, how to create a strong brand. We work with thousands of agencies, so we're helping them understand how to grow their agency without the capital expense of hiring branding and design specialists directly, and how to communicate to their clients the importance of branding. And so it's more education focused, less of, when you said events, I went right to kind of the, the big conference rooms and handing out your business cards. But no, so it's more of an educational focus. I mean, where it's going, I'm not sure. I mean, I think, look, personally, I'm more introverted. I'm in Wyoming. I don't want to leave, so, I like, connecting, like you and I, where we can see each other and talk. And, but, I'm not really interested in getting together with a bunch of people that may or may not be able to help the business. I did hear a great strategy from a partner. I lead partnerships at marketing, and so I lead partnerships at Crowdspring. And I heard this great strategy from one of our partnership conversations where he went to one of these events where you pay a couple $1,000s to have a table and talk, and he did all of his legwork leading up to the event. And so what he did was he booked 60 meetings that were going to last about 10 minutes each. Everybody knew it was kind of like a quick date, that you're going to sit down at the table and we're just going to meet each other real fast. And I thought that was a really interesting hybrid strategy where you get that kind of one-on-one interaction, but you are also already at the event. Because the nice thing about events is, and I know this from being in a tourist location outside of Yellowstone, is that we change our habits when we're in a new location, right? So when we break out of our homes or our offices or our cities, we're open to trying new things, right? And so whereas before I might not take a 10-minute meeting with you, hey, if I'm already at this conference and you want to give me a coffee and we'll sit down and then I can tell my boss that, yeah, I met with somebody, that's a win-win. And so I thought that was an interesting strategy kind of in the event space.
Yeah, that is. Well, like who are you? Who are you thinking about? Little Jason, did you know you're going to be talking about brand and marketing and running partnerships and hopping on podcasts left and right when you're a kid?
Right.
What was it like?
I was raised in a house that encouraged curiosity, right? And so like me and my brothers, we watched the movie, The Great Escape, and where they're tunneling out of the concentration camp.
Such a great movie.
We go out in the backyard with our shovels and dig a giant hole. The problem is this is in Florida. Our soil is, sandy. So, I mean, this was
the water level is like right there, right?
Water. Yeah. We were going through the water. Yeah. And so, it's all about curiosity, I think. And I think this is why I'm kind of drawn towards marketing and partnerships, is because you hop on a call and you start asking questions, you start digging deeper, you start seeing, okay, how can we work together? I'm trying to understand the intricacies of their business instead of just selling, because, much like a marriage, in a partnership, I don't want to drag you into that relationship. It's not going to work. Right. And so I need to understand, your company and your goals and to see if there's a fit, and so that's very different than kind of a sales mentality where,
Yeah.
you're trying to push for a specific outcome. Whereas marketing got a lot of tools in your arsenal about how we can work together.
Yeah, so true. So true. So who would be the ideal customer for Crowdspring?
So it's very broad. We created this with the idea
Whoa,
of
whoa, whoa! It's
affordable.
broad. Are we gonna have to have the niche down lecture at some point?
Well, we niche down in our education and our conversation. We just attract a broad audience to different
Gotcha.
areas. And so typically it's a small business owner, right? In any industry, whether they're, running a plumbing business or they're a lawyer, and they're trying to look for affordable branding. But then we also work with thousands of agencies who are working with these clients as well. And so we kind of tailor the Crowdspring conversation differently to them.
Mhm.
And we work with a fair amount of Fortune 500 level companies where, one, they appreciate our privacy policies and our commitment to intellectual property. And so, they'll post projects through their innovation centers where, like, we've had a chance to work with Barilla Pasta to create a new pasta shape, right? Not much innovation in pasta shapes over the past couple hundred years. They wanted to have something, kind of unique to talk about. And so it's a fun style to be able to work with a variety of different companies. And I think this comes because we have 33 categories of branding and design. So we're hitting companies as early as the company or product naming stage, where you get to see the company or product at its earliest phase. They don't even have a name yet. Or much more mature companies that are rebranding and refreshing and looking for innovative ideas.
Got it. Well, I have a hypothetical question for you.
Okay, I'll give you a hypothetical answer.
Okay. I may or may not have a time machine here in New Hampshire. So you come visit,
Nice.
ride your buffalo on over here. You come visit,
Yep.
and we get some lobster, we get some beer, and you get to use the time machine. But it's a particular kind of time machine. It goes back in time a few days after graduating from college. That younger you get to meet yourself, and you can tell yourself anything you want, and it won't create flashpoint. It won't break the time-space continuum. What kind of things would you tell yourself?
All right, that you've thought through how to go back and fix problems pretty easily. I think the first thing to mention is that if you're not embarrassed by yourself, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, you're not growing enough, right? You need to be pushing yourself, or at least that's my opinion. Maybe you're comfortable where you're at, but I really want to be embarrassed might be too strong of a word, but I want to look back and say, you know what, that clearly was a younger version of me. I've learned a lot since then. And so I think it's getting back to this point that you don't have to feel insecurity about failure. Failure, figure out how to fail quickly. My first startup was right out of college, and I was naive and I was excited, and of course it was going to work. This was during like the app craze, so you built an app and they will come. And so it's certainly okay to be naive. I think that helps you move a little quicker. We know as we get older and we have more responsibilities and mortgages and families that, we start to take more calculated risks, but we want to make sure that, look, it's okay for failure. But I'd say, fail smaller, find ways of learning without, spending a lot of money and a lot of time. Because right out of college, that was one of the challenges, is spending a lot of time and money on something that ultimately failed. I'd rather get to that realization, quicker.
Totally. Across basically every possible life thing. It'd be great to find out if it's working or not yesterday rather than, 9 months from now.
Sure. Absolutely. I mean, we like to think we could learn from other people's mistakes, right? Isn't that like the goal? You read a book and let them make the mistake and you learn from it. It's almost impossible, right? We have
Really
to make
is.
the same mistakes. So what we can control, though, is how quickly we come to that realization that we're making a mistake and to make that change, right? We want to avoid years and thousands of dollars.
And quick, fail fast, right? Fail small, to your point, and then iterate and change and don't keep doing the same thing, right? But actually learn from it and do it differently the second time.
Exactly.
Amazing. Oh man.
So you mentioned the lobsters over in Maine. Am I bringing Rocky Mountain oysters from
I don't know.
from our
maybe
from
you
our
could bring
area?
some rib eyes,
Or the elk?
Oh, actually some elk. Yeah, get some elk over. Were we talking about like hunting? You go bow hunting, right?
I do. Yeah, I'm surrounded by 8 million square miles. So it's a lot of elk hunting territory out here.
So you're like the Wyoming Joe Rogan.
Yeah, yep. It's nice
Exactly.
out here. It's a
Exactly,
lot of,
Casey. Just like that. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Minus the billions, but yes.
Right. Right. How long have you been doing that? How long have you been like
So
these bows?
it took me 3 years before I got my first elk. It's very difficult. Look, when somebody says they elk hunt, there's like a couple questions maybe to kind of preface,
Mm,
kind of what they're doing. And the first is, are you hunting with a rifle or a bow? Both are strong sports, but the bow, you're doing a lot more stalking and you've got to get, within 40 feet, I mean, you're a lot closer. Are you hunting on private land or public land? So we hunt
right.
on public land. And the pressures are harder. That's not like a farm with grain that they're feeding their cattle that the elk are eating. There's environmental pressures and predators that are making that much more challenging. And then maybe the third question is, is it grizzly bear country or is it not? Rogan typically hunts down in the lower Rocky Mountain areas, and there's no grizzly bears, right? And so you don't have to worry about hanging your meat up in a tree. You don't have to worry about getting mauled when you're hunting, whereas that's what we're doing here. So it just makes it a little bit more challenging, and I like that challenge.
Yeah.
As you can probably guess from our conversation, it's a fun challenge. It's like hiking with a purpose is how I look at it. I love hiking, but bow hunting is like hiking with a purpose. So I don't go into it 3 years to get one elk. It wasn't like this huge setback or disappointment. It was like, okay, I was hiking with a purpose and I didn't get it this year.
Yep.
But it's coming.
And I mean, I've seen shows like Meat Eater, and there's just a lot of hiking, but maybe one day you'll be in the right spot and right.
Yeah, I was trying to, because we have all of our elevation trackers, and I was trying to figure out the other day like how much we climbed in the past couple of years, and it was roughly around like 500,000 feet of elevation gain, and that's not even including all the loss because you're going up and down. So we're climbing 10,000 feet to get to high elk country. Yeah,
And maybe you don't get anything.
maybe you don't get anything, right?
But it does make it more fun. When I took up ski patrolling, the same kind of thing happened to me for skiing, where it's like, well, I could just ski and see how many runs I can get in, do the math around that. But
Sure.
but then it was like, oh, now I'm skiing, but I'm also, there's like a layer above it of, well, I could help somebody out with it, or something could
Yeah, it turns
happen.
into a little bit more altruistic. It's like, what am I going to
Yeah.
see today? Like which
Yeah.
conversation am I going to have? And
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Plus,
Yeah.
it's also a lot less awkward to walk into a conversation, with somebody when you're wearing ski patrol. Like, you get to have a lot of conversations where, your badge kind of leads the way.
Totally. You could just ski right to the front of the line at the lift too.
Yeah.
Because safety first. So
The last time I went skiing was in Switzerland, and it kind of killed it for me with skiing, because it's like,
bet.
man, this place is just like gorgeous. It takes us like an hour to get down the run.
I bet.
It's like, yeah.
That's the thing though. If you're like, hey, one more run. Okay, now you're guaranteeing yourself the next half an hour to hour of you gotta work it now. It's not like, oh, let me just do a quick little run here, and
Right.
like you're in it.
Exactly.
And rescue on those is like, okay, we're gonna call that $5,000 helicopter to get you down.
So I actually have helicopter insurance.
Do you?
Yeah, that's a thing out here in some of the rural Rocky Mountain states, because it's just a lot faster to get to the hospital. I mean, when you're talking life and death situations, so we pay it for the family. It's a yearly rate, and they'll land in the yard and pick me up and take you to the hospital. They'll come into the backcountry, if there's a problem out there. So
so that's even just civilian wise, like even at your house, they'll come and land out there.
Yeah, I don't think you can order it, so it's not like, hey, I got a splinter and I'd much rather take
like
the helicopter.
Yeah.
So it's the triage nurse that that answers that call, where they're trying to make that decision based on where you're at and resources. But
interesting.
Yeah. I can't say I'm not a little excited to, maybe one day experience this from the business model perspective. That's why I want to ride along.
Well, yeah, of course you can analyze it and look at all the bells and whistles for sure.
Exactly.
I mean, it seems like a great job, like like a flight nurse. Yeah. Let me just, one of the guys that goes down on one of those, wires to like grab someone and package them up and bring them up. Seems like a lot
Exactly.
of fun.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a good side job, a little side hustle, on the weekend.
Exactly. Well, it's an interesting business model. I mean, the way they're able to aggregate, you're playing off of fear. So, the chances that you're going to need a helicopter rider are probably slim. But, there's a high risk and a high penalty. I mean, if it's tens of thousands of dollars for a helicopter ride. And so, paying the little bit, per year makes sense. And you aggregate that with thousands of people and you have a business, that works out well for everybody.
Yeah, 100%. New Hampshire, they have if you're a dumbass and you get rescued and it was your fault because you wore jeans and flip-flops up Mount Washington, and it snowed, they'll charge you for the cost of rescue unless you buy this little hike safe card for $10, in which case, okay, dumbass excused, you're good.
Nice.
So again, playing off that fear of maybe think twice. How about you just do both? Bring the right equipment and you buy the card. Now you're really good.
Exactly.
Well, where can people connect with you? What are some good sites, some good URLs, Crowdspring? How do we get in touch?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you need to reach out directly to me, it's jason@crowdspring.com. Happy to answer any questions to help you in your business. We have a brand identity grading service at Crowdspring. It's completely free. It is a 10-page custom report. It's done by a human. It's done specifically for your brand, specifically for your business. We grade your brand identity on a scale of 0 to 100. And we provide specific insight that we think you could update on your side. And for those listening, a brand is every single interaction that somebody has with your company. That's what a brand is.
Oh, no.
The brand identity is everything visual, right? And so this
okay.
is your logo and website. And so we specifically look at kind of the visual components of your brand and provide some insight. So you can reach out directly to me, jason@crowdspring.com. And we do a lot of education. If you're thinking about, your brand and your brand identity, crowdspring.com/blog. We spend a lot of time and energy on educating around this topic.
Wow. Sign me up, dude. I'm kind of scared to find out, but I know I need to find out what my gaps are,
Right. We're gentle. It's much like this conversation.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on here and teaching me and helping dispel the myths around just getting busy to try to, make yourself happy as a marketer. We got to get strategic. And man, I really appreciate you coming on here.
Perfect. Casey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And for those listening, if you learned something, and I freaking know you did, because I got pages of notes over here, I can't help but learn on this podcast, then share this with someone else. 1 person, 3 people, 9,000 people, be a thought leader. That's how you do that. You just get good information in other people's hands. So with that, Jason, thank you again.
Thanks, Casey.
All right, everyone. This has been another crazy, cool, exciting episode of the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will see you all next time.